Well, you have nailed down that you will be doing this new Bachelor show.
Yes.
So how excited are you about this, and does it make a difference that the quarantine spurred it, or is it something you always wanted to do?
It's something we've always wanted to do lately. I mean, you have to get to 18 years before you can say, hey, we should really look back. So we're a victim of our own success in that regard. But yeah, the quarantine has definitely, spurred this thing on. And Mike Fleiss and I started talking immediately and thought, what could we do? Everybody wants content. And then there was this clamoring for old seasons of The Bachelor. And look, whether you're too young, maybe you weren't born, or you just weren't on the Bachelor Nation train yet, but a lot of people missed some huge pivotal seasons. And so let's go back and how do we bring this to everybody, but not just dump it online and not just let it play out over 10 weeks. How do we make it fun, interesting, and very different?
Let me show you how it's done.
You do see people tweeting a lot saying, drop all the old seasons, give us the seasons. Why not just do that?
Well, first of all, people have to understand how the business works. You don't just drop anything. That's not how it works. I know we all have phones and we think there's just instant gratification, but this is a business and you can only drop things that are purchased. And so if people buy things, then they can put it on. So Netflix doesn't actually own everything in the world. So everything in the world's not going to be on Netflix. That's not how this works, people.
If somebody had never even maybe seen the shows before, what would be a couple seasons you'd tell them, this is gonna hook you and you're gonna get into it on this new show?
Since we've made this official, I've been racking my brain and driving myself crazy over the Mount Rushmore. There's those pivotal seasons, those Mount Rushmores, like a Trista, obviously, the godmother and kind of legitimized this franchise. Jason Mesnick, The Big Switch, Molly and Melissa. Sean Lowe, just an iconic, great love story. And then there's those pivotal seasons that there were so many people on it that then shot off and became big members of our family and important members, like a Juan Pablo. Claire's season, you go back, Andy Dorfman was a Bachelorette. So many people came off that. Caitlin Bristow, a lot of guys that became important and influential to our franchise were on that season. So I've been racking my brain. And then there's those just favorites of mine, like Jillian Harris, an old school, Jake Pavelka. We got to show Jake.
The original pilot.
The original pilot.
Well,
also, ironically, a mess. I don't know what it is with pilots.
They're all up in the air?
Yeah, maybe they're used to being alone in a cockpit. I don't know.
So do you guys have it all ironed out which seasons exactly you will
No,
do?
we are fighting.
Fighting.
Because we're fans. Look, I'm a fan. Mike Fleiss, the creator of the show, is a fan. Rob Mills is a fan. We're all fans of our own shows, and we're fighting just like you would be on social media. Yeah, we're going to show Trista. Yeah, we're going to show Sean Lowe. Caitlin Bristow. Those are going to be on. But then, look, if we're going to do 10, maybe even more of these, there's a lot of debating that's going to be happening, and that's the show. What I want to roll on is our Zoom calls of us yelling at each other, demanding this season is the most important season ever.
Will we get that?
We need to. I'm going to roll on it. They don't know this yet, but I'm going to roll on that.
Well, but some people don't want their seasons maybe to be shown. I know Caitlin's kind of joked about that before, that she doesn't maybe want to relive all those moments. I know Nick Viall maybe doesn't want to see everything from Andy Dorfman's season again.
Well, the good news, Nick's been on so many seasons, not all of them can be aired. There's just too many. No, look, revisionist history is a wonderful thing. It's like a fish story. It was this big, then this big, then this big, and all of a sudden, you're telling it from your perspective, how cool you are and how this thing went. Well, now everybody's going to get to see how it really went. But don't worry, this is all in love, this is all in fun, and it's not going to be this long linear story. Like, it's going to be more bite-sized, more podcast, where it's going to be more categories and
The highlights.
Yeah, the highlights, and showing the people that made the season so important, and then checking in with them. So don't worry, it's not going to be that bad.
But will there be some moments where maybe a lead is reminded, oh, no, you felt this way at this time? All our memories can get a little foggy.
Right, look, and a lot of these people have kids now, and I'm sure Trista and Ryan have shared with their kids how things were and what your parents were like. Well, now they're teenagers. Yeah. Their kids are going to really get to see what they were like. Okay. And look, I'm in front of all this. I'm not excited about everybody seeing a young Chris Harrison in my oversized suits.
It's a different fit back then. You were like Michael Jordan on The Last Dance.
Remember, pleats were still in for a while.
That's when the guys wore those shiny collared shirts.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty mortifying.
So you're a little nervous.
Yeah. I think there will be emotions and things that I realize that I'm not even sure I'm gonna know yet and I'm gonna feel. Because this has been an emotional ride. This has been my entire professional life. 18 years. Think about where you were 18 years ago. That was a different time in my life. And so there are things in my life that have happened. My kids being born. Taylor was born while Trista was being married in Meredith's season. So there's pivotal moments in my life that are going to coincide with these seasons.
One person you're wanting to talk to the most?
I think it's Juan Pablo. But no, for me, it's going to be seeing some friendly faces and seeing, Jason and Molly and talking through that and Trista. And
are we going to get Chris Soules this season?
I don't know. It's on the board. This is like a draft.
Is Chris Soules too busy quarantining in Iowa with Victoria Fuller?
I don't know, but apparently there's more and more evidence building to this relationship.
Well, she went ahead and posted on Instagram farm life and did her location tag as Arlington, Iowa.
Okay, well, that's probably a gimme.
Yeah. Did you see the two of them coming? And knowing both of them, do you think that relationship works?
I saw that coming like the pandemic. I mean, nobody saw it coming. No. That out of the blue. But great. I guess he slid into her DMs is how that works. Don't know. But good on him, man. I hope they're happy, and I hope she's driving tractors around, flipping up the soybeans and all that good stuff. That's great.
We haven't heard much from Chris, so knowing where he's at or what he was looking for, and having just done the season with Victoria, why do you think that worked?
I think they both have similar pasts. I think they have things they can relate to with each other. Chris is a good man. I've known Chris for a long time and love him to death. And I do know that he was very serious about, I live in Iowa, and he has a very successful farm, but I've been there. It is in the middle of nowhere. He's not finding a Victoria out there. And so this is the only way he's gonna find somebody. So good on him, man. I wish him all the best, I do. And however they want to define it, when they define it. And that's the same thing with Peter and Kelly. And there was another one I heard today, Madison and somebody. And I'm like, great, good on you guys. Yeah. I wish you the best.
Well, and Victoria was somebody who really, I thought, redeemed herself in that finale. And we saw a different side of her, and I was really rooting for her when we got to see her speak to you.
The last time I saw her was then, and I gave her a big hug, and I whispered in her ear, I said, you did great. I was like, I'm really proud of you. I'm like, I wish I had seen this girl. And I think that's actually what I said was, where is this girl? I would have loved to have seen her on The Bachelor. And she's like, I know. Sometimes this show just kind of gets the better of you. It gets you. Kelly is a great example. And I think that's why maybe her and Peter are connecting now, because she didn't perform well on the show. It got the better of her. And she outthought herself. And I think Victoria did the same thing. And now maybe she is just calm, cool, collected, and she's finding love with Chris. Great.
So how will you quarantine film this? Are you going to be at the mansion?
Oh man, this has been like a military operation. The hoops we have jumped through to make sure that everybody is satisfied, lawyers, heads of state, you name it. We really are going to every length to make this safe. And I mean, to the point of, there is a specific door at the mansion. We're going to shoot this at the mansion. That is our hope and dream. There's a specific door that I will enter into that no one else can go in. There's a room where I can get ready that no one else will be in. And when I go in to shoot, it will be in an empty room that will have a set camera and set lights. I will mic myself, and we will start to roll. And then I will leave. And there is a way I have to leave and disinfect how I go, and that's it. And then I don't see anybody. I will hear people, I guess, from another room. So we're very, very careful, and we have color coordinated rooms and places you can go. So, and I'm glad. It's the only way you can do this. It's going to be very safe. We won't touch anybody. We won't see anybody. I will talk to the cast and crew via Zoom and other forms of communication. And so it's our new life right now until we can get back.
Would you say this is maybe the most complicated operation you've ever pulled off?
There is an operation handbook that I have received of how I need to go about doing this. From getting my clothes to getting makeup to arriving where I will park when I get to the mansion. I have a designated space, and then how I will enter without being around anybody. And it's great. I'm glad that the network and the studio are saying, if you're going to do this, there's only one way we're doing it, and it has to be really safe. And so we'll abide by these rules and make it work the best we can.
Now, how recent of seasons will we potentially get? Because it is a bit of a look back show, but Peter's season, Colton's, Hannah's, those were huge seasons. So will they
I doubt we'll get into those. I mean, it's so fresh in everybody's mind. There's no reason to, I think if you're going to do anything, you would have to flash forward with them and what they've been doing in the quarantine. So no, I think this is more about, and I don't want to put a line in the sand of where we will go back, but Sean Lowe, Ben Higgins, I think is a great one. Caitlin Bristow, Rachel Lindsay, great season. Maybe they're back is where we would go. There's going to be 10 of these to start. I think we'll end up doing more because I think it's going to be a massive, overwhelming success when everybody gets into this. And so we'll see. Maybe the more we do, maybe the more recent we get.
By the way, I don't know if you saw Peter Krause from Rachel's season just did Ben and Ashley's podcast. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
He said that he was offered The Bachelor, but that he turned it down because he was kind of seeing somebody and he was told, well, you would have to break up with that person. He said that he wanted couples counseling and that agreement couldn't be come to. So
couples counseling for who?
For whoever he might end up with, him and that person.
Oh, okay. Well, they do. They get that, yeah.
Okay.
So everybody has access to that.
So what's the real story on Peter Krause's Bachelor? Was he officially offered it and he turned it down?
I don't know. Look, I don't want to poo-poo on any of his stories because I didn't read it and I didn't hear him talk, and he's a good guy. We do talk to a lot of people, you know that. We have a lot of candidates, and we ask them all to be the Bachelor, and we ask them all to be single. That's really important. Like, I don't know what he thought or what he thinks or where we were at the time, because it also has to do with where we were in the casting process. We may have been talking to 4 other people at the time, for all I know. It is normal for us to have multiple candidates coming in, and then like there will be for this greatest hit show, there's a debate. It's like, okay, this person, first of all, we have to find who's available, who's really sincere. Then we bring them in for interviews. There is a vetting process that goes all the way up to the top of the network. So there's a lot that goes into, instead of, hey, Peter, you want to be the Bachelor? Great, come on. So that would have, and again, not to put a big pin in this big balloon, but that would have been the start of where we would have gone. That wouldn't have been the final step.
Well, speaking of casting, I have to ask you where things are at with Claire's season, because you guys have been promoting, you are casting, and Claire's even been getting into some social media battles with her.
Claire, by the way, really is the Bachelorette. That is true. We asked her and she accepted. No, she, right now it's still up in the air as far as timing goes. Again, the state of California just took a big step back. Who knows what's going on? So maybe we leave. Maybe we have to go to a state that has their stuff together and we can shoot. Who knows? Maybe we're doing this in Texas. I don't know. But right now, we're just waiting and seeing until we can do it safely, until we can do it the right way. I don't want to make this a quarantine version. I don't want it to look weird. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on TV that I'm not loving. This is an escape. People want to get away, and I want to do it right. And when we can do it right, we'll do it with Claire. And yeah, we are recasting still, because who knows what the world's going to look like when we get done.
Well, what does doing it right mean? Because I think Rob Mills did do an interview and he said, maybe we're on lockdown, we're in a house somewhere. What does doing it right entail?
Look, it's still going to be different. I think whatever you do, we're not going to be back to normal, flying around the world and just doing what we want. But with that said, I think there's a happy medium. I don't want to just lean into the quarantine and make this be like, hey, it's the quarantine edition. We're doing it all via Zoom. That's not what the show's about. It's not what people are watching it for. People still want to escape. We've talked about maybe we go to one location and lock it down, or maybe we can only travel a little bit. I don't know yet, because we don't know what the world looks like. We're just throwing out ideas. Nothing is definitive. But I still want it to look like The Bachelor. I want it to look like The Bachelorette, so people realize, this is my show. Okay, I can escape. I can fall into this.
So Claire's season definitely still happening as far as you know. She's the Bachelorette.
100%.
Hey, future husband, you out there?
Listen to Your Heart is on. The drama on this show is wild. Like, if people aren't watching it, I'm not sure they're understanding kind of how emotional and up and down these musicians are. On this episode, Julia and Brandon.
Wild.
Which one of them is the bigger offender?
Okay, first of all, you're right. If you aren't watching, you must. And if you are, you've got to see next week's episode. Monday's episode, the Brandon and Savannah, Julia and Sheridan of it all is out of this world. I would put it up with anything that's happened in this franchise. I don't think we've ever had a female character like Julia. And you ask a question, Julia and Brandon, I think they just deserve each other, maybe. I don't know. I don't think there is a worse or a better between them. I think they both have their own I don't know.
qualities?
Yeah.
Pitfalls?
I mean, clearly Julia was not into Sheridan. Clearly she's using him to stay around, and it seemed like she was staying around to judge Brandon and Savannah about how they're not there for the right reasons. It's wild. There are things, and I never do this. Last week I watched Monday's episode. I rewound several things about 4 or 5 times because I couldn't believe what was being said by Brandon and by Julia.
When he called her sweetie. When he called Savannah sweetie. Like, Brandon, no. That's just...
Did that go over well?
How...
The level of condescending.
Condescension, yes.
Not good.
And Julia, you know, Natasha said she makes everything about her. What do you think Julia is going to think watching this back?
I hope it's a little bit of self-awareness. I think Brandon and Julia could use a little bit of self-awareness. When you are breaking up with somebody and you're making them apologize and you're saying that they're being mean when they're being broken up with, that's a level not many people get to. That's some awareness you need in your life.
Yeah.
That's a mirror you need held up close.
I said, Julia, don't listen to your heart. Listen to your own words. Watch it back and hear what you're saying.
God bless Sheridan. Sheridan, wherever you are, man, if you are friends and family with Sheridan and you can get inside the quarantine bubble, give him a hug. That dude deserves a hug.
What would you say to Jamie, who I think said she was going to cry or puke about 10 times on this episode? She is constantly melting down.
Okay, first of all, I'm just going to say I'm a fan. I love my Jamie. I do. And I went through this journey with her, and this was a big emotional stepping out for her. There were some just stuff she was really uncomfortable with, and it was performance anxiety, the dating thing. There were just a lot of things she had to overcome. So I was really proud of her. Okay, it was a lot. There was a lot of crying and a lot of that, but at the time it made sense to us because we were living it and going through it. But yeah, now that I watch it back, I'm like, oh, damn, girl, that was a lot. But I love my Jamie.
And Chris and Bree saying their first I love yous to each other on stage in front of all those people. What was that moment like in person?
What a great story to tell. I said I love you in front of Tony Braxton, Andy Grammer, Rachel and Brian, and 1,000 spectators. And what the great part is it was so loud in there because we're at this big theater in LA, everybody's screaming and yelling, and she stopped. She's like, I don't think he heard me, but at the end I said I love you. And by the way, good job for Chris, because that's, talk about being put on the spot. He's like, well, if I'd heard that, I would have said I love you too. Crushed it in that moment.
It was, I honestly.
Crushed it like a scarf.
He had that scarf wrapped around his neck, and she was wrapped around his finger. They were, and the moments backstage after that really felt genuine to me when he said, I really mean it, and you could hear her say, I really mean it.
No, they're the Jade Tanner. They just went off and had their own show. Like Jade Tanner did in Paradise, they're just doing their own thing, and they are madly in love. And amazing, we're like 3 weeks in.
Amazing.
That's when, honestly, to take all the silliness away, when that happens, I get this stupid grin on my face, and people were talking about it on social media, and I'm like, this is what I love. Like when that happens, I'm like, it kind of makes it all worthwhile. That's the cool thing about this show, is it works. These people are really in love, and they never would have met each other other than this show.
What will happen to the Listen to Your Heart tour prize?
Good question. Obviously, when we made that prize package, getting out and touring and concerts were a thing. Clearly, that is still part of it. As soon as they can and they can do it safely, we'll do that. But yeah, you know, creating music, working with a music producer, music video, going on tour is all something we definitely want to do as soon as we can safely do it. But yeah, how wild that you kind of look back. Even that concert, you know, when I'm watching the concerts back, I'm like, wow. When you look at it through this lens of a quarantine, it's very different.